So, Thunderbolts is out, and I know I'm a little bit late on this, but I still wanted to talk about it anyways. You see, going into this movie, I had pretty much no expectations. I have become a little cynical, in the past few years, just because of the recent things Marvel has put out. But I am glad to say that I am pleasantly surprised. Now, to be clear, if you don't like the MCU, this movie will still probably not be your favorite. It doesn't really change anything, and I have a lot of love for the MCU myself, but I think that I've found my patience wearing thin in a lot of areas. I've been just constantly unimpressed with how this franchise has rolled out everything, and it feels like this movie adds a lot of much-needed characterization. For one, it cements Yelena as a Black Widow that I can really get behind. And if they keep going on the right track, I could see myself even coming to like her more than Natasha. I love that Yelena is just like the heart of the film. She's searching for meaning, and the movie starts with her doing all this spy shit, but doing it in a really depressed way that makes it feel like she's on autopilot. She's even wearing sweatpants in the scene, and I just really liked how this movie starts off strong. Yelena feels kind of trapped and unimportant in this film, and she's by far the strongest character here. I really don't have any complaints with how they handled her. She feels like a person with realistic problems, and I like that her grief and her depression manifest in a way that you really wouldn't expect from a movie like this. I think it would have been just so easy to make her just an edgelord who doesn't talk about their feelings and is just a Marvel quit machine. But no, she spends the entire movie looking for people to be her therapist. It's really interesting. I really like that this franchise has decided to steer Yelena away from being the type of femme fatale that Natasha was. And while I think that she really did work for the Infinity Saga, I did often find myself wanting more from her. It felt like she was just kind of there, And then in the one movie where they do try to give her characterization, it comes after she already fucking died. So, I didn't really care.
It's tombstone for you, little homie. We all gonna lay roses on your coffin, cause your career is R.I.P.
But the fact of the matter is, Yelena is a completely different character than Natasha. She's someone who just wants to talk to someone and make friends, but is also a deadly assassin who could kill you. I don't know, she's just a really compelling character. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that she's one of, if not the, most likable new character we've gotten post-Endgame. She feels, at this point in time, very satisfyingly fleshed out, and I just think it's really easy to like her. So yeah, I like her a lot.
Alexa, show me my baby.
Okay.
There she is.
And even though I said earlier that if you don't like the MCU, this movie's probably not for you, one thing I think this movie does do well that steps aside from the Marvel formula is the action is actually good. I will just say, when it comes to the MCU, the action, in my opinion, has just never been its strong suit. In general, the fight scenes and the general choreography was just significantly improved here. Overall, the action sequences in this movie are pretty dang good. I don't really have any problems with them.
Fucking A.
But going into the movie, this film features a group of misfits who join together to explore the deepest parts of their past. And it feels like, because of this, Thunderbolts is authentic in a way that a lot of recent Marvel entries haven't. Because Marvel just has not been hitting, at all. The plot of this film almost feels like the state of Marvel as a whole. The movie aims to find meaning in that spark again, the spark like the old MCU had. And it feels like that's reflected in the journeys that the characters go on as well. I really do think, though, that the thing that carries this film are the performances. And not in like the way where the actors are trying their best with a terrible script in a shittier situation. It just feels like it complements their performances really well. I've seen a lot of people compare this movie to Suicide Squad, and conceptually, I'd say the only similarities this has with Suicide Squad is that they're like pseudo-reformed villains. That's about it, honestly. It feels like with Margot Robbie in the 2016 Suicide Squad, she was doing a great job playing Harley Quinn. I'd probably even go as far to say that she's one of the most comic accurate castings in a superhero film, maybe ever. Yeah, I don't think I have a problem saying that. She's really good. But obviously, the 2016 Suicide Squad movie was fucking terrible.
Utilize nuclear bombs.
But it doesn't feel like that's the situation here. This movie is good, and the script is good, and the performances just elevate it to a level it wouldn't have been at before. It also feels like everyone in this movie really does care about what they're doing. It doesn't feel like the performances are taking this movie too seriously, not to the point where it's brutally unself-aware, like other superhero movies I could talk about.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Like, come on, man. Superhero movies are allowed to be a little corny. I will say, probably the star of the show other than Yelena is Louis Pullman's character. He's playing Sentry, and he's probably my favorite MCU villain besides maybe Killmonger or even Namor, to a lesser extent. It really feels like he mixed in with the older characters well, and I think this is the first time in a very long time where I've seen a new character in a post-Endgame Marvel film and been like, damn, I really want to see that guy in another movie. I mean, he clearly resonates with other audiences. It's not just me. People are making thirst traps of this character.
And if you hear this song, then go on, bend your back. Go on, bend your knees, baby, shake it to the max. With the DJ, please turn up the bass to the max.
But yeah, like I said, the performances in this film are shockingly good. And going back to Florence Pugh, I do think she is the star of the show. For all intents and purposes, she is the main character here, and it feels like she carries that role very, very well. She was easily my favorite part of the Black Widow film, which is a movie overall I just really did not like at all. And so it feels like she's even better here. One of the things I noticed from this film is that it takes elements I liked from shows or movies that I didn't like, and it makes it a lot better here. This can be seen through how they portray and win me over with the character of US Agent. So, Wyatt Russell played this character in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show originally, and then he reprised his role for this film. And I remember just thinking like, okay, but like what else could they do with him that already hasn't been done? And I think they actually did manage to flesh him out in a satisfying way. Obviously, when it comes to these big ensemble superhero films, not everyone is going to get the same amount of screen time and love, but it does feel like with what they gave him, it is good enough to win the audience over on his character. I will say, I really do like how US Agent here is still being portrayed like a jackass. He's definitely a piece of shit, but he's not just a punchline. He feels like a real person and not a caricature, which is what these movies often go for. And in my opinion, it just leads to really uninteresting characters and uninteresting conversations, which in turn just makes the movie worse. It feels like in this movie he really clings on to his image as a hero and views himself differently than the rest of the group. I will say though, I wasn't crazy about how Ghost was implemented back into this story. I was originally pretty excited to see her back because she was pretty compelling in the second Ant-Man film, but she just doesn't do anything in this movie. It was very noticeable how little she did and how little she mattered at all, especially since everyone around her had great characterization. It's just kinda weird and ironic that the character named Ghost is the one that I forgot was in this movie. She's probably the most forgettable person here.
Who?
You could probably just remove her from the movie and nothing would really change all that much. Which is kinda sad because she was cool in the last movie and now she just doesn't really have anything. She's just kinda there. And then there's Bucky. It kind of felt like to me he was really underutilized. His and Sam's interactions in their own show was probably one of the only things I liked about it. It felt like he was characterized a little bit by being portrayed as a pretty bad congressman, and his motorcycle scene was probably one of the coolest action sequences in a Marvel film as of late, but I just think I wanted more from him. I thought he was going to kind of step up into that leadership role, and while I see now that Yelena is kind of that leader of the team, it just felt like he was just kind of there, and there was nothing about his story that was unique to him. Felt like you could have replaced him with Sam Wilson or someone else, and it would have pretty much turned out the same. And when it comes to what I guess could be called the main antagonist of the film, Valentina is pretty not good. She pretty much only exists to push forward the entrance and the story of the Sentry, which is fine, I guess, but that whole part of the film where she tries to get Sentry on her side just maybe feels a little rushed, which I guess you could say is the point, because at the same time, she doesn't really do a good job at winning him over.
I am a void. There's no use fighting.
Okay, we are cooked.
Also, Taskmaster is in this movie. Yeah, okay, I need to talk about Taskmaster. So, this was the only Thunderbolt who was not confirmed to be in Avengers Doomsday. So it was pretty clear she was gonna get domed. Come on, man. I don't know, if I were a cynical person, I would say this is just an easy way out of writing a bad adaptation of a character. I will choose to lean on the side of optimism, and I hope that this unceremonious execution of this character means Marvel wants to try again, hopefully make him or her have a personality, but I feel as though, even though that adaptation sucked, you didn't have to fucking kill her immediately. That's kinda disrespectful. I don't know, I feel like they could have done something. And I really wouldn't be harping on this much if she wasn't in the poster. I really did not like the MCU version of Taskmaster. I am a pretty big Taskmaster glazer. I really like this character. I think he's really cool, and I think that he's probably one of my favorite villains in Marvel. He gets a solid A tier from me. But the MCU version of Taskmaster, on the other hand, is boring as hell. I don't think she has more than one or two lines in that film. She's kind of built up as this Terminator stoic character, I guess, but I feel like even calling her a character is very generous. I didn't even necessarily hate the fact that they gender swapped him, but it felt like it really wasn't done for a good reason, and she just didn't have any personality, which was my biggest problem. I don't know, I just think it's not handled in a very satisfying way. I thought it would be more of a big moment, something that kind of matters in the overall plot, but they literally don't even learn each other's names before she gets Swiss cheesed. I just don't know why they put her in the marketing at all. It wouldn't be so weird if they just had her show up and die. But they decided to trick everyone into thinking that she was a Thunderbolt. They even edited her into a fight scene in one of the trailers. I will say, aside from that, the tone of this film is pretty good and pretty consistent. It has plenty of Marvel-y humor in it, so I guess if you don't like that, you know, okay. But I will say, in this film, it never undercuts the emotional beats inappropriately, as a lot of Marvel projects do. It feels like the whole group wants to become heroes, someone to look up to and something to fulfill them in a deeper way, and they're fighting to be more. Now, if you don't like the MCU, you're probably not going to like this movie. This does not redefine the genre, it isn't really innovative or anything like that, but it is really cool. It reminded me of why I spent so much money back in the day to go see these films in theaters. It has themes that are fleshed out. Yeah, when was the last time you thought a Marvel film had strong themes? But more importantly, it has really good characters, which is by far what Marvel does best when it works. I do think this movie could bring the MCU back, or at least be a good reason for it to come back. But I'm gonna level with you right now. If Fantastic Four or Avengers Doomsday sucks, it's probably over. This film, however, does really stand on its own, and can really be classified as probably one of the best projects to come out of these two phases. It explores depression, loneliness, self-harm, all in a way that feels grounded and relevant to the story and also respectful. And because these topics are handled with care, it makes the characters a lot better for it. It kind of feels like this is what the MCU was missing. It feels like a kind of harkening back to their old ways. I will say, I don't think Thunderbolts is mind-blowing or revolutionary, didn't change my life or anything. But, you know, visually it looks great. Overall, it sounds and looks and walks like your typical superhero flick. But that doesn't really bother me, because I feel like that's kind of what Marvel has been failing to do. It's a good movie-going experience, and it just kind of reminds you why these movies are so well received. Thunderbolts is a pretty generous, but also pretty fun 8 out of 10.